The rope bit into her wrists as blood dripped from her split lip onto the forest floor. Elena Hartley had 30 minutes before 99 motorcycles would thunder through these woods. But first, she had to survive the next 5. Vincent Drake pressed the gun barrel against her temple, his smile cold as winter steel. "No one's coming for you, farm girl," he whispered. What he didn't know was that 15 years ago, she'd been the FBI agent who'd nearly ended the Prairie Phantom. And tonight, the past she'd buried would finally claw its way back to the surface. 6 weeks earlier, morning light spilled across Meadowbrook Farm as Elena tightened the final bolt on her vintage tractor. At 40, she wore her strength in sun-weathered skin and calloused hands, auburn hair tied back, eyes that catalogued everything. The radio played Creedence while she worked, vintage sound filling the Kansas air. The news cut through the music. Another family farm sold to Highland Development this week, the 8th property in 3 months. Critics warn these acquisitions threaten the region's agricultural heritage. Her phone rang. Victor Hartley's gravelly voice carried 76 years of wisdom. "Morning, sunshine. You coming to town? Martha's got those apple pies you like." "Planning on it. Need supplies anyway." "Listen, there's something bothering me. Strangers asking questions about properties." Got a bad feeling. Victor's instincts had been sharpened by 4 decades in law enforcement. When he sensed trouble, trouble usually arrived. "I'll stop by around noon." After the call, Eleanor showered and changed. The farmhouse kitchen held few photos, her life deliberately sparse. One frame showed her wedding day to Daniel, both smiling at futures that never came. 5 years since the accident took him, the grief remained fresh. She paused at the locked study door, Daniel's room preserved exactly as he'd left it. Some doors stayed closed for good reasons. 40 minutes later, her immaculate 1984 Ford pickup rolled into Bridgewater. The town balanced between progress and decay, Main Street businesses aging alongside vacant storefronts. Martha's general store anchored community life. "Your daddy said you'd come by," Martha called out, 70 years etched in her weathered face, but eyes still sharp. "Saved you a pie. You're too good to me." "Heard about the Patterson place?" Elena nodded. 3rd-generation farm gone. "These corporate vultures are circling everyone now. Sheriff Anderson's been meeting with them all morning." As Elena gathered supplies, Sheriff Dale Anderson entered. At 70, he carried military posture and watchful eyes that never quite relaxed. "Elena, how's Victor doing?" "Ornery as ever. Listen, I need a word outside." On the sidewalk, Anderson spoke without preamble. "Those men I was meeting with, they're from Highland Development. Asked specifically about your property." Elena's spine stiffened. "My place isn't for sale." "That's what I told them. But they don't strike me as the type who accept no for an answer." He hesitated. "One more thing. Remember those unsolved cases from Montana years back, the Prairie Phantom?" Eleanor's heart stuttered, but her face revealed nothing. "Vaguely. 15 years ago, disappeared after killing 6 women. There've been 2 new murders in Lincoln County. Same signature. Women tied to trees, throats cut. Way out here? Just keep your doors locked, being alone out there." "Always do." As Anderson walked away, ice formed in Elena's stomach. She finished errands mechanically, overhearing whispered conversations in the hardware store. "Same marks from the Montana victims. My cousin works forensics. Thought that killer was gone. FBI agent almost caught him back then. Woman. Story goes she wounded him, but he escaped and she mysteriously disappeared after." Elena's hands trembled as she selected extra ammunition. Just farm supplies. Nothing unusual. By the time she visited Victor at Bridgewater Care Home, Eleanor had composed herself. Victor studied her face as she entered. "You've heard," he said simply. Eleanor nodded. Anderson told me, and I overheard talk about the Prairie Phantom. Victor glanced toward his closed door. 2 women dead, same signature. You know what that means. Could be a copycat. Could be. His voice dropped. Jessica. Elena flinched at her real name. FBI Special Agent Jessica Cole, who'd tracked the Prairie Phantom for 2 years, who'd cornered him only to have him escape after she'd shot him. The woman who'd officially died in a car bombing when the killer's powerful family made prosecution impossible. No one's called me that in a long time. Maybe it's time to remember who you were. Because if Dominic Westwood's back, he hasn't forgotten. Victor had been her handler after witness protection, assigned to monitor her new identity. He'd become protector, friend, eventually her adopted father when documentation needed strengthening. I'll be careful. Careful won't cut it. Remember Daniel. Elena closed her eyes. The accident 5 years ago, Daniel's truck losing its brakes the same day he'd accessed old land records. There's no proof. Check the lockbox in my garage. Code's your real birthday. Victor's voice lowered. And ask around about the old Blackwood estate. Rumor says one of Blackwood's descendants watches the Westwoods still. Might help. Driving home, Elena crested the hill before her farm and saw an unfamiliar black Cadillac in her driveway. 3 men waited beside it. Elena parked and stepped out, posture casual but senses alert. The tallest man smiled, extending his hand. Miss Hartley, Vincent Drake, Highland Development Acquisitions Director. Hope we're not intruding. Drake looked mid-40s, tailored suit and confident smile. His 2 companions were clearly security, thick necks and weapon bulges under jackets. Elena didn't take his hand. Private property, Mr. Drake, most folks call ahead. My apologies, may we talk briefly? She nodded toward the porch, keeping them outside as Drake laid out his proposal. 3 times market value, cash, with a year to relocate. That's generous, but Meadowbrook isn't for sale. Drake blinked. Perhaps you misunderstood the figure. I understood perfectly. The answer's still no. The friendly facade slipped slightly. Drake gestured at her fields. Ms. Hartley, you're operating this farm alone since your husband's passing. 50 acres is substantial for one person. Our offer would set you up comfortably. I manage fine. One security man's hand moved toward his concealed weapon. Elena noted the movement without changing expression. Highland Development is acquiring all land in this area, Drake continued. All your neighbors will eventually sell. You'll be isolated. Wouldn't be the first time. Something flickered in Drake's eyes. Things happen to isolated properties. Equipment failures, accidents. Shame if you encountered difficulties alone. I appreciate your concern, but I handle difficulties well. Drake handed her his card. Think about it. Our offer won't last indefinitely. As the Cadillac disappeared, Eleanor memorized the plate and faces. Their movements were too disciplined. Special Forces training. Inside, Eleanor went directly to Daniel's study. Behind a landscape painting sat a wall safe. She entered their wedding date, removing a metal case containing her past. FBI credentials identifying her as Jessica Cole, her service weapon, and a sealed envelope marked Contingency. The envelope held a phone with 1 program number. She pressed dial. Sundown Motel. I need to speak with the manager about a reservation from August 2006. A pause. Jessica. Hello, Marcus? Assistant Director Marcus Fleming had supervised the Prairie Phantom Task Force, one of 3 people who knew she hadn't died. Jesus, I never thought I'd hear from you. Are you compromised? Possibly. 2 new victims with Westwood's signature in Lincoln County, and a development company suddenly wants my farm. What company? Highland Development. Their acquisitions director is Vincent Drake. Former military, I'm guessing. Marcus's sharp intake confirmed her suspicions. Drake was dishonorably discharged from Delta Force in 2009. Allegations of torture in Iraq, dropped off grid after. Coincidence? You don't believe that. Nathan Westwood established a development company 5 years ago, started in Arizona, moved to the Midwest last year. The timing aligned with Daniel's death. What about the new victims? Both women in their 30s, physically similar to Westwood's previous victims, and to you, bait. After arranging secure communication, Marcus hesitated. Jessica, you should consider extraction. We can relocate you again. No, I'm done running. This ends here. After hanging up, Elena removed documents on Dominic Westwood and his family from the case's false bottom. The Westwoods had built their fortune in real estate development, beginning with their grandfather in the 1960s. They'd cultivated political connections, making them virtually untouchable. Dominic, the eldest son, had been Harvard-educated, charismatic, destined to expand the empire. Few suspected the darkness driving him to abduct, torture, and murder 6 women across Montana between 2004 and 2006. Jessica Cole had connected the victims, identified patterns, eventually tracked Westwood to an abandoned cabin. Official reports stated Westwood escaped after a brief firefight. What reports didn't mention was that Jessica had shot him, watched him fall into the river below, seen the current carry him away. 3 weeks later, Jessica Cole died in a car bombing. Elena Hartley was born. She met Daniel 3 years later, fell in love, married, believed she might have a normal life. Until Daniel died in a brake failure on a straight road. Elena locked the case. If Nathan Westwood and Vincent Drake were working together, they wouldn't stop at threats. The next morning, Elena drove to Victor's house in town. Though he lived at the care facility, his modest ranch remained as he'd left it, maintained by Elena. In the garage, she found the lockbox hidden beneath floorboards. Inside lay a Colt Python revolver, $20,000 cash, 3 ID sets, a satellite phone, and a handwritten note. Jessica, if you're reading this, the past caught up. The revolver was my service weapon 40 years. Never failed once. The IDs will get you across borders if needed. But before you run, remember what we discussed. Sometimes the best defense is offense. Call the number in the phone. Ryder knows nothing about your past, but he owes me his life twice. He'll help without question. P.S. Your FBI marksmanship training might prove useful. The Remington 700 is in the wall safe behind the workbench. Elena found the safe, opening it to reveal a disassembled sniper rifle with scope. She'd been one of the top marksmen in her FBI class. Back at the farm, she began methodical preparations. Security cameras at strategic points, motion sensors along the perimeter, weapons cleaned and loaded, emergency supplies staged in the root cellar beneath the barn. By evening, she was ready for the first phase, information gathering. She arranged to meet Sheriff Anderson at Clara's Diner, a throwback establishment with wood-paneled walls and faded sports photos. Anderson was waiting when she arrived. Got you coffee. Black, right? You remembered. 40 years in law enforcement, you noticed details. He studied her. Frank called this morning. Said I should watch your back. Elena hesitated. Anderson had known Victor for decades. If Victor trusted him, perhaps she could too. What do you know about Highland Development? Anderson grimaced. Corporate predators. Been buying land across 3 counties. Permits check out, but something feels off. The men with Drake. Notice anything unusual? Military bearing. Situational awareness beyond typical security, and they're carrying. His eyes narrowed. What aren't you telling me? Elena took a breath. You mentioned the Prairie Phantom yesterday. What if there's a connection between those murders and Highland? That's one hell of a stretch, unless you've got evidence. Not yet. But the timing of these purchases, new murders with the same signature, it's too coincidental. Anderson sat back, troubled. You know something about the Prairie Phantom, don't you? Elena met his gaze. I can't say more right now, but I need information on Highland. Their personnel, land purchases, local connections. Anderson nodded slowly. Frank said you'd need county records access without leaving a trail. Said to tell you I'm on board. Relief washed through Elena. It means he trusts you completely. So do I. Enough to tell me why Drake asked if Eleanor Hartley had relatives in Montana, or why he seemed interested in when you moved here. Eleanor's blood turned cold. He asked about me specifically. After our meeting yesterday. Very casual. But there was nothing casual about how he watched for my answer. What did you tell him? That I didn't know much about your background before you married Daniel. Which is true. Elena pulled out her phone, showing him a news article about the recent murders. These women. Tell me what you know. Anderson glanced around before responding quietly. Not much, officially. Victims were Jennifer Hayes, 36, and Monica Reeves, 35. Abducted from public locations, found tied to trees 48 hours later, throats cut. Both had brown hair, athletic builds. He paused. Both resembled you. The confirmation sent chills through Elena. She showed Anderson another photo. A property record showing Nathan Westwood as CEO of Highland Development. Nathan Westwood, Anderson read. Any relation to Dominic Westwood, the Prairie Phantom suspect? His younger brother. Anderson's expression darkened. And Vincent Drake, former Delta Force, discharged for excessive force. Now Highland's acquisitions director. I think Nathan's using Highland as cover to search for something, and the murders are messages, warnings, or bait. For who? Before Eleanor could answer, the satellite phone vibrated. Marcus. I need to take this. Outside, she answered. What have you got? Nathan Westwood purchased 17 properties in Kansas in 6 months, all through Highland. Most were straightforward, but 3 involved pressure tactics, vandalism, threats, 1 mysterious fire. Targeting farms specifically, properties with historical significance, all existed before 1940. Elena frowned. That can't be coincidental. There's more. Dominic Westwood. No confirmed sighting since you shot him, but Nathan made monthly visits to a private Swiss clinic between 2006 and 2008. Facility specializes in reconstructive surgery and rehabilitation. Dominic's alive. Possible. Hospital records suggest ongoing treatment for gunshot trauma and extensive reconstructive surgery. Patient names redacted, but timing and pattern fit. He survived. And he's been planning revenge for 15 years. After ending the call, Eleanor sat in her truck, mind racing. What was Highland really searching for? Why target her farm specifically? She needed local information. The ally Victor recommended, the number connected to a gruff voice. Ryder. My name's Elena Hartley, Victor Hartley's daughter. He said you might help. A pause. Victor's girl, the one who runs Meadowbrook Farm. Yes. Victor said you might call someday. Said if you did, situation was serious. It is. Crossroads Bar, Highway 20, 9 o'clock tonight. Come alone, but be careful. The Crossroads Bar stood at intersecting county highways, weathered wood structure serving farmers, truckers, and motorcyclists for 50 years. The gravel lot held a dozen Harley-Davidsons, arranged in neat rows, chrome gleaming. Elena parked at the lot's far end, checking surroundings before exiting. The Colt Python rested in a shoulder holster, familiar weight both comforting and sobering. Inside smelled of beer, leather, and wood smoke. Vintage neon signs illuminated wood-paneled walls, decorated with military memorabilia. A jukebox played Lynyrd Skynyrd. The dozen patrons were mostly men in their 60s and 70s, leather vests emblazoned with military insignia and Iron Warriors MC. They fell silent as Elena entered, all eyes assessing. From a back table, a mountain of a man rose. Standing over 6 feet with barrel chest and thick grey beard, William Ryder Patterson looked exactly like his nickname suggested. Despite imposing size, he moved with balanced grace. Elena Hartley. His voice matched his appearance. Deep, powerful, controlled. Elena nodded. Victor said you might need help someday. Said when that day came, I shouldn't ask questions. He gestured toward his table. But I'm guessing you'll tell me enough. As they sat, Elena noticed Vietnam tattoos on Ryder's forearms, Desert Storm ribbon pinned to his vest, alert intelligence in his eyes. This was a warrior who'd seen conflicts and emerged intact. I have enemies, Elena began simply. They're after my land, but it's more than that. They want me, and they've killed at least 2 women who look like me while searching. Ryder's expression didn't change. These enemies military? Some. Former special forces led by a man named Vincent Drake. Recognition crossed Ryder's face. Drake, Delta Force washout, bad reputation, rumors of civilian casualties in Iraq. You know him. Know of him? Military community talks. Man like that makes waves. He studied her. What's he want with the Kansas farm? Elena chose words carefully. I believe they're searching for something on my land. Something valuable enough to kill for. And you? I have history with them. History they want buried along with me. Ryder nodded slowly. Victor always said there was more to you than met the eye. Said you had skills. Said if you ever needed backup, I should provide it. He gestured around the bar. Every man here's a veteran. Most former law enforcement, paramedics, firefighters, Iron Warriors look out for our own. I'm not a veteran. You're Victor Hartley's daughter. That's good enough. He leaned forward. Now, tell me what you need. Information first about Highland development, then possibly protection. They've threatened me, and they don't strike me as stopping at threats. Ryder's expression hardened. Protection we provide. He beckoned to a lean, gray-haired man at the bar. Ray, join us. The man called Ray approached, moving with slight stiffness. Wire-rimmed glasses, weathered face, sharp eyes. Elena Hartley, this is Ray Palmer, former Army surgeon, 3 Desert Storm tours. Also, County Assessor's office manager since retiring. Ray extended his hand. Miss Hartley, what can I do? Information on Highland Development's property purchases. Specifically what they might be searching for. Ray's expression grew thoughtful. Interesting question. I've been tracking their acquisitions. There's a pattern that doesn't make development sense. He pulled out a small notebook with a hand-drawn map. These markers are Highland properties from the last 6 months. Notice anything? Elena studied the map. The properties formed a rough semicircle around an unmarked central area, her farm. They're surrounding Meadowbrook, Ray nodded. And they're overpaying significantly for specific properties. All share one historical characteristic. They were all part of the original Blackwood estate in the 1920s and 30s. The name struck a chord. Daniel had researched local history before his death. The Blackwood name had appeared in his notes. Blackwood. As in Arthur Blackwood, the bootlegger. The very same. During Prohibition, Blackwood ran the largest illegal alcohol operation in 3 states from his Kansas base, made a fortune, then disappeared in 1931 along with his fortune in gold and cash. And Highland thinks this fortune's buried on the old Blackwood property, Ryder surmised. Would explain their interest, Ray agreed. There's been talk for decades that one of Blackwood's descendants is alive, keeping tabs on the Westwood family. Old Edward Curtis at Silver Pines Care Facility seems particularly knowledgeable about Prohibition-era history. Elena felt pieces clicking. And my farm would have been the main house, the heart of the original estate, Ray confirmed. Historical records show Blackwood's mansion stood exactly where your farmhouse now sits. Daniel's research, his accident, Highland's determination, all connected to a prohibition fortune. But that didn't explain the Westwood connection or murdered women. Was there any connection between Blackwood and Montana, or possibly the Westwood family? Ray's eyes narrowed. Funny you ask. After Blackwood disappeared, his property was eventually purchased by a company called Summit Enterprises in the 1960s. Summit was an early venture of Joseph Westwood, Nathan and Dominic's grandfather. The final piece. The Westwood family had searched for Blackwood's fortune for generations. Nathan continued the search using Highland as cover, and if Dominic was alive, he had the perfect opportunity to combine treasure hunting with his vendetta. Before Elena could respond, the bar's door slammed open. Sheriff Anderson stood there, expression grim. "Elena, your farm's on fire." The words hung like smoke. Elena was already moving, pushing past Anderson toward the door. Ryder's massive hand closed gently but firmly around her arm. "Not alone. Iron warriors ride with you." The parking lot erupted into controlled chaos as veterans mounted motorcycles. Within minutes, the roar of Harley engines filled the night as a convoy of bikes and Eleanor's truck thundered toward Meadowbrook Farm. They crested the hill, and Eleanor's heart sank. Orange flames illuminated the night, but it wasn't the farmhouse burning. The old barn blazed fiercely, flames reaching 30 feet. 2 county fire trucks battled the inferno. Eleanor ran toward the closest firefighter. "Anyone check the house?" "Clear." No forced entry. Barn was fully involved when we arrived. Anonymous 911 call. Anonymous, of course. Ryder appeared beside her. "This is just the opening move. Testing your defenses, support network, seeing who comes to help." Elena nodded, scanning darkness beyond the flames for watchers. Sheriff Anderson approached. "Fire chief says deliberate, accelerant at multiple points, professional job, no evidence." "Did security cameras catch anything?" "Power was cut first." The barn collapsed with a thunderous crash, sending sparks skyward. While Iron Warriors established a protective perimeter, Elena walked her land's edge with Ryder and Anderson, explaining what she'd learned at the crossroads. "Arthur Blackwood's lost fortune," Anderson mused. "Local legend says it could be worth millions today." "Treasure hunting seems elaborate," Ryder observed. "It's not just treasure," Elena said quietly. "Not for the Westwoods." "This is personal too." She hesitated, then decided. "There's something you should know about me. About my real identity." Anderson's expression didn't change. "I figured there was more to your story. Victor never said much, but I've known him 40 years. Could tell he was protecting you." Elena took a breath. "My real name is Jessica Cole. I was FBI, assigned to the Prairie Phantom Task Force. 15 years ago, I tracked Dominic Westwood to a cabin in Montana. Shot him, but he escaped. 3 weeks later, I officially died in a car bombing and entered witness protection." Anderson absorbed this without visible surprise. "And now you think he's back, working with his brother Nathan and this Drake character. The new murders match his signature exactly. 2 women who looked like me, left in woods just like his victims in Montana." Ryder's expression darkened. "Messages. Telling you he's coming." "Or trying to draw me out," Eleanor agreed. "The land purchases, pressure on farmers, now this fire. They're escalating." "Why not come for you directly?" Anderson asked. "Because Dominic Westwood enjoys the game. The terror, the anticipation." Elena stared into dying flames. "And because he wants me to suffer first." By dawn, the barn was a smoldering ruin. Iron Warriors had maintained protective watch through the night. As firefighters packed equipment, Elena surveyed damage. Farm equipment destroyed, feed lost, a significant blow. "Insurance will cover some," Anderson said. Thanks, Dale. Inside, Elena went straight to Daniel's study. The wall safe appeared untouched, but something felt wrong. She scanned carefully, noting subtle discrepancies. The chair slightly misaligned. A book pushed back further than others. Someone had been here. She opened the safe. The credentials, gun, cash, all present. But when she removed the false bottom, her stomach dropped. Several documents from her Westwood investigation were missing, specifically pages detailing her research into the Blackwood connection. She called Marcus immediately. My place was hit last night. Barn burned as distraction. Someone went through my files on Westwood. Professional. They knew exactly what they wanted. Took only the Blackwood research. Marcus cursed softly. I've been digging. The Westwood family's been obsessed with finding Blackwood's fortune for generations. Joseph Westwood, the grandfather, believed Blackwood double-crossed his father during Prohibition, made the search a family mission. Vengeance and greed, powerful combination. There's more. Nathan Westwood made 6 trips to that Swiss clinic over the past year. Same clinic where he visited regularly after his brother's disappearance. Dominic's alive. No confirmed sighting, but records suggest ongoing treatment for gunshot trauma and extensive reconstructive surgery. Patient name redacted, but timing fits. He survived, and he's been planning comeback ever since. Jessica, you should consider extraction, new identity, new location. Elena watched Iron Warriors patrol her property. These men in their 60s and 70s risking themselves for her. No, I'm done running. He'll just find me again and more innocent people will die. This ends here, one way or another. After the call, Elena returned to the barn ruins. Behind the collapsed structure, a small root cellar remained intact, padlock untampered. Inside, she retrieved a waterproof case containing Daniel's research. Her husband had been fascinated by local history, particularly Prohibition. His notes on Blackwood were extensive, including maps of the original estate and theories about where the fortune might be hidden. One page caught her attention, a survey map from 1930 showing a complex tunnel system beneath the original Blackwood mansion. Tunnels perfect for moving illegal alcohol during Prohibition or hiding a fortune when the law closed in. Elena photographed the important documents, then resealed the case and returned it. If Highland was searching for these tunnels, they had a significant advantage, but they still needed property access for thorough search, which meant she still had leverage. Back at the house, she found Ryder waiting with Ray, who'd arrived with supplies. They'll be back, Ryder said without preamble. Fire was just beginning. I know, Elena agreed, which is why I need to visit my father. Now, while they're regrouping. Not alone, Ryder insisted. 20 minutes later, Elena's truck followed Ryder's Harley toward Bridgewater Care Home, 2 Iron Warriors riding escort. Victor was waiting in the facility's garden, his wheelchair positioned to catch morning sun. Despite physical limitations, his eyes remained sharp, taking in the motorcycle escort. Making new friends, he commented dryly. Your old friend Ryder sends regards, Elena replied, kissing his cheek. Thanks for the recommendation. Victor nodded toward the waiting bikers. Iron Warriors. Good men, tough as they come. His expression grew serious. Dale called, told me about the fire. It's starting, Dad. Just like you warned. Victor glanced around, ensuring privacy. What does Drake know? Enough to be dangerous. They took Daniel's Blackwood research from the house while the barn burned, but missed material in the root cellar. The tunnels. Victor's voice lowered. Rumors say Blackwood built escape routes throughout the property, used them to evade federal agents during Prohibition. You knew about them. Rumors. Frank's voice dropped further. But there's something else. Something I should have told you years ago about Daniel. Elena felt a chill. What about him? He came to see me a week before his accident. Said he'd found something in county records, a connection between the Westwood family and Blackwood. Said he was going to confront Nathan Westwood about it. He what? Eleanor fought to keep her voice steady. Why wouldn't you tell me? Victor's face showed regret. You were finally healing, finally moving forward. I thought knowing would only bring pain without changing anything. It would have confirmed what I suspected, that Daniel's death wasn't an accident. I know that now. I'm sorry. Victor reached into his pocket, withdrawing a small key. Daniel left this with me. Said if anything happened, I should give it to you. Opens a safety deposit box at First National Bank in Miller County. Elena stared at the key. He knew he was in danger. I think he suspected. Victor paused. Have you spoken with Edward Curtis about any of this? Edward, Elena said, recalling Ray's mention. Who is he? We play chess twice a week. Smart old man. Knows more about Blackwood-Westwood history than anyone alive, I'd wager. Room 237 here. Why? Doc suggested he might have information. Victor's eyes narrowed. Edward keeps his cards close. Man's got his own history with the Westwoods. Tread carefully there. The bank in Miller County was 40 minutes away. Elena called Anderson, who agreed to meet them with proper identification to access the box. Ryder insisted on providing escort, positioning riders ahead and behind Elena's truck. First National Bank occupied a solid brick building on Main Street. The manager seemed flustered by arriving motorcycles and a sheriff, but Anderson's badge smoothed the process. The safety deposit box contained a single manila envelope, sealed and marked in Daniel's handwriting, for Elena if necessary. In the bank's private viewing room, Elena opened the envelope with steady hands. Inside, photographs, documents, and a handwritten letter. Elena, the letter began, if you're reading this, my suspicions were correct. I've uncovered something dangerous, something people might kill to keep hidden. While researching our farm's history, I discovered evidence that Arthur Blackwood didn't just disappear in 1931. He was murdered by Joseph Westwood, who then spent decades searching for Blackwood's hidden fortune. The Westwood family built their empire on this secret, expanding their search across multiple states. But the key has always been the original Blackwood estate. Our farm. The enclosed documents prove Robert and Nathan Westwood continued their grandfather's obsession, and their development projects have been covers for their search. Most disturbing is what I found about your past, Elena. I know who you really are. I discovered your connection to Dominic Westwood when researching family history. I don't know all details, but I understand why you've kept secrets. I love you no matter what name you use or what past you're running from. If something happens to me, take these documents to Sheriff Anderson. He's a good man. Trust him. And know I've always loved you, Jessica. Elena lowered the letter, vision blurring. Daniel had known, had discovered her real identity, her connection to Dominic Westwood. And instead of confronting her, he'd tried to protect her, had died trying to protect her. The other contents included property records showing the Westwood family's systematic acquisition of former Blackwood properties over decades, news clippings about Joseph Westwood's rise in development, and financial records showing millions in unexplained cash transactions consistent with money laundering. Anderson whistled softly, reviewing documents. This is enough for federal investigation. And enough to get Daniel killed, Elena said quietly. We should get these to the FBI. Elena shook her head. Not yet. Dominic Westwood evaded justice 15 years despite FBI's best efforts. The moment we involve federal authorities, he'll disappear again. And Nathan will have lawyers delaying investigation for years. So what's the play? Ryder asked. Elena gathered documents carefully. We use their obsession against them. They want access to my farm to search for tunnels, for Blackwood's fortune. So we give them what they want, on our terms. Back at the farm, Elena outlined her plan to Ryder, Anderson, and Ray. It was audacious, dangerous, relied on perfect timing, but if successful, it would end the threat permanently. "You're using yourself as bait," Anderson objected, "deliberately drawing Westwood out. It's the only way to end this." He won't stop. The killings in Lincoln County prove that. He's escalating, sending messages. More women who look like me will die unless we stop him now. "You'll need more than iron warriors," Ryder said thoughtfully. "I can call chapters from 3 states. Get maybe 100 riders here within 48 hours. And I can deputize a few men," Anderson added reluctantly. "Keep it official." Ray adjusted his glasses. "I've been studying original Blackwood property maps. If Daniel's research about tunnels is accurate, there are at least 3 entrance points outside the main house. One in your north pasture, one near the creek, one in the old root cellar behind where the barn stood." "They'll be watching," Ryder pointed out. "How do we prepare without tipping our hand?" "We don't," Elena said simply. "We let them see exactly what we want them to see." Over 2 days, Elena made it obvious she was shaken. She spoke with insurance adjusters in plain view, filed police reports, appeared vulnerable when in public. Meanwhile, Iron Warriors reduced visible presence with only Ryder and 2 others remaining openly on property. Behind scenes, different story unfolded. Ryder's calls brought promises from veteran clubs in Missouri, Colorado, and Oklahoma. Anderson quietly briefed 3 trusted deputies, and Eleanor systematically prepared her property, placing motion sensors and cameras at strategic locations per Ray's tunnel analysis. On the evening of the 2nd day, Vincent Drake made his expected move. His black Cadillac pulled up just as dusk fell. This time, alone. Elena met him on the porch, shotgun visible, but not threatening. "Miss Hartley." Drake nodded politely. "I was sorry to hear about your barn. Terrible accident." "We both know it wasn't an accident," he smiled thinly. "Insurance should cover damage, which brings me to my visit. In light of recent events, Highland would like to revise our offer. We're prepared to double our previous figure." "Very generous." "We can have paperwork ready tomorrow. You could be moved out by week's end with more than enough to start fresh somewhere safer." The threat in his final words hung between them. Elena leaned against the railing, deliberately projecting resignation. "Before I consider your offer, I'd like to speak with your real employer." Drake stiffened. "I don't know what you mean." "Tell Nathan Westwood I want to meet him. Directly. No intermediaries." The calculated use of Nathan's name hit its mark. Drake's expression flickered with surprise before settling into cold assessment. "Nathan Westwood is a busy man. He doesn't meet every property owner." "He'll meet with me," Elena said confidently, "especially when you tell him I've found something in the tunnels beneath this house, something that belonged to Arthur Blackwood." Drake went very still. "What exactly have you found?" "That's between me and Mr. Westwood. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. He can bring 2 men, no more, and I'll know if I'm being watched before then." After Drake departed, Ryder emerged from inside. "He'll come. But not just with Nathan. Dominic will be there too, if he's really alive." "I'm counting on it," Elena said grimly. The next morning, Eleanor drove to the care facility with Ryder following. Victor was waiting, face showing concern when Elena explained her plan. "Too dangerous," he protested. "Dominic Westwood's a psychopath. He won't play by rules. Which is exactly why we end this now, before more innocent people die." Victor studied her face and sighed heavily. "You always were stubborn." He reached beneath his wheelchair, withdrawing a small package wrapped in oilcloth. "Take this." Inside was a silver locket on a sturdy chain. "It's beautiful, Dad, and practical. Open it." Instead of photographs, the locket contained a small key. "What does it unlock?" "Gun safe in my garage, Behind the false wall in the workshop, you'll find something there that might help tonight. By noon, iron warriors from neighboring states had begun arriving in small groups, gathering at prearranged locations outside Bridgewater. Ray had converted his garage into operations center, maps pinned to walls. Anderson and deputies reviewed the plan, identifying vulnerabilities and contingencies. Elena spent afternoon at her farm making final preparations. She called Marcus with an update, ignoring his renewed extraction pleas. This ends tonight, one way or another. At least let me send a tactical team. And have Dominic vanish at first sign of federal involvement? We do this my way. She softened slightly. But have a team on standby in Lincoln. If this works, you'll have both Westwood brothers and Vincent Drake gift-wrapped for prosecution. At 6 o'clock, Elena positioned herself on the porch, visibly alone, nursing whiskey as darkness fell. In reality, Ryder and 3 iron warriors were inside, armed and vigilant. 2 of Anderson's deputies concealed themselves in the tree line, and 50 yards away in dense woods behind the barn's ruins, Victor's Remington waited in Ray Palmer's hands, his steady surgeon's hands and excellent vision making him the group's best marksman. The remaining iron warriors, now numbering close to 90 riders, waited at staging areas outside motion sensor range, engines off, radios silent, prepared to move on Ryder's signal. At precisely 8 o'clock, headlights appeared on the long driveway, not Drake's Cadillac this time, but a sleek black Mercedes flanked by 2 Jeep Wranglers. Eleanor remained seated, shotgun across her lap, as vehicles parked. Vincent Drake emerged from one Jeep, scanning professionally. 4 men in tactical gear exited the other, spreading out. Only when they signaled did the Mercedes door open. Nathan Westwood stepped out first. Early 50s, polished appearance of old money, expensive suit, silver hair, confident bearing. He surveyed the farmhouse with obvious disdain before turning to assist the second passenger. Elena's blood turned to ice as Dominic Westwood emerged. 15 years had changed him. The handsome face she remembered had been altered by surgery and trauma. The right side drooped slightly, nerve damage from gunshot or river fall. His athletic frame moved with pronounced limp, supported by an ornate cane. But his eyes remained unchanged, calculating, predatory, void of empathy. "Jessica Cole," Dominic called, his voice carrying clearly. "Or do you prefer Elena Hartley these days? So good to see you after all these years." Elena rose slowly, movements deliberate. "Dominic, you look different." He laughed without humor. "Yes, a bullet followed by a 100-foot fall into freezing water will do that, but here we are, both survivors." Why the theatrics? The murdered women? The pressure on farmers? Why not just come for me directly? And miss watching you squirm, letting you feel hunted as I felt hunted? He gestured with his cane. "Besides, my brother's business interests aligned perfectly with my personal agenda." Fortunate synchronicity. Nathan stepped forward. "Ms. Hartley, or Agent Cole if you prefer, Drake tells me you found something of interest in tunnels beneath this property. I've located one of Blackwood's caches, but before I show you, I want assurances." "You're hardly in position to negotiate," Nathan said dismissively. Elena smiled thinly. "Actually, I am. Because what I've found isn't just Blackwood's gold. It's evidence of how your grandfather murdered Arthur Blackwood and stole his operation. Evidence your family's been covering up for generations." The brothers exchanged glances. Dominic's expression hardened. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "My husband found the connection before his accident, left proof in a safety deposit box. I found more in the tunnels. Right now, copies of everything are with my attorney to be released to federal authorities if anything happens to me." "Show us," Nathan demanded. "First, your word that once you have what you want, you'll leave. No reprisals against me, my father, or anyone in Bridgewater." Nathan nodded impatiently. "Fine. You have my word." Now take us to the tunnels. Elena led them toward the barn ruins, where the root cellar entrance lay partially concealed by debris. She moved with deliberate slowness, giving Ryder and others time to track their movements. The root cellar's heavy wooden doors lay open, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. Drake insisted on going first, flashlight and pistol ready. The Westwood brothers followed with Elena behind and two armed men bringing up the rear. The cellar itself was small, ordinary, rough stone walls, dirt floor, empty shelves. "There's nothing here," Nathan said accusingly. Elena moved to the back wall, pressing a specific stone. With grinding sound, a section swung inward, revealing a narrow tunnel. "Prohibition architects were clever," she commented. "Blackwood had escape routes throughout the property." Drake went through first, then Dominic leaning on his cane. Nathan hesitated, eyeing Eleanor suspiciously before following. The tunnel extended 50 feet before opening into a larger chamber clearly used for storing illegal alcohol. Empty racks lined walls, ancient bottling apparatus sat dust-covered. "Where is it?" Nathan demanded. "The gold, the evidence." Elena pointed to the far corner where a wooden chest sat half buried in rubble. "There. But there's more. Another chamber beyond that wall with the main cache." While Nathan and Drake approached the chest, Dominic hung back, watching Elena with predatory eyes. "You know what I did to those women in Lincoln County, Jessica? Made them beg. Made them say your name before I cut their throats." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Is that what you did to Daniel, too? Made him beg before tampering with his truck?" "Daniel? Oh, no. He died too quickly for begging. Shame, really. I would have enjoyed taking my time, especially after he started asking questions about my family." "It's locked," Nathan called from the corner. "Drake, break it open!" As Drake knelt beside the chest, Elena pressed a hidden button on her watch. The signal. Above ground, Bear and his men would be moving. Iron warriors mounting motorcycles. Anderson and deputies approaching. "You won't get away with this," Elena said quietly. Dominic's smile was terrible. "Already have. You think I didn't anticipate a trap? My men have been watching your biker friends all day. They're being dealt with." A muffled explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Then another, closer. "Shaped charges," Dominic explained casually, "set at strategic points. In 2 minutes, this network collapses. Nathan gets his gold, I get revenge, and you, Jessica, simply disappear." Another explosion, closer. Drake had broken open the chest, revealing stacks of gold coins and old currency. "We need to go now," he shouted, shoving handfuls into a bag. Nathan looked torn between greed and self-preservation. "What about the rest?" "There is no rest," Elena said calmly. "Just enough gold to ensure you'd be distracted when charges went off." Dominic's eyes widened. "It's a trap. Move now." But the final charge detonated in the tunnel behind them, collapsing their escape in choking dust and debris. Simultaneously, Eleanor slammed her elbow into a light switch hidden by the bottling machine, plunging the chamber into total darkness. In confusion, she activated the infrared beacon on her belt, a signal to Ray above ground tracking through thermal scope. Then she rolled behind wooden racks as Drake and guards began firing blindly. "Stop shooting, you idiots!" Dominic's voice rose. "You'll hit support beams." Too late. A thunderous crack announced support failure. Dirt and stone began raining as the ceiling started giving way. Elena felt her way along the wall to the concealed exit she'd discovered during preparations. A narrow shaft once serving as air vent, now widened enough for a person. As she pulled herself upward, she heard Nathan's panicked shouts and Drake's curses as they realized she was escaping. The shaft emerged 50 yards from the root cellar, hidden among trees. As Elena climbed out, she was met by Ryder and 2 iron warriors. "Tunnels collapsing," she gasped. "They triggered their own trap." "Anderson secured the house," Ryder reported. Took down 4 of Drake's men without firing a shot, but we've got problems. Another dozen mercenaries just arrived at your north property edge. The sound of motorcycle engines roaring to life in the distance answered that threat. Iron warriors converging, nearly 100 strong, honoring their promise to Victor Hartley's daughter. We need to secure the tunnel entrance, Elena insisted. Make sure none escape that way. But as they approached the root cellar, the ground collapsed inward with deafening rumble. The entire tunnel system gave way, sinking into earth as decades-old supports surrendered to time and trauma. Dust billowed from the massive sinkhole, briefly illuminated by approaching motorcycle headlights. Night air filled with Harley engines as iron warriors arrived from all directions, forming protective ring around Eleanor and Ryder. From trees, Ray appeared, Victor's rifle slung across his back. No thermal signatures in collapse zone. If they're down there, they're not moving. Anderson's patrol car pulled up, lights flashing. We've captured 6 of their men at the house. The rest scattered when they heard motorcycles. For a moment it seemed the threat had ended with the tunnel collapse. Then a shot rang from darkness beyond the sinkhole. Ryder grunted and staggered, blood blossoming on his vest. "Sniper!" Ray shouted, pulling Elena to cover behind a tree. More shots followed as Drake's remaining men opened fire from concealed positions. Iron warriors returned fire, creating chaotic firefight illuminated by muzzle flashes and headlights. In confusion, Eleanor spotted movement at the sinkhole's far edge, a figure pulling itself from a secondary tunnel entrance, moving with distinctive limp despite injuries. Dominic Westwood had survived. Again. As he staggered toward trees, Eleanor made her decision. Grabbing Ray's rifle, she sprinted through darkness, using gunfire cover to circle behind Westwood's escape route. She found him leaning against a tree, blood streaming from head wound, expensive clothes caked with dirt. His cane was gone, forcing him to support weight against the trunk. "Jessica," he wheezed, seeing her emerge with rifle trained on him. "Come to finish the job?" "You're under arrest, Dominic, for the murders in Montana, for the women in Lincoln County, for my husband." He laughed, a wet, rattling sound. "Still playing by rules. That's why I'll always win. You can't do what needs to be done. Don't test me. You know what they called me? The Prairie Phantom. Because I could disappear, vanish. I'll do it again. However this ends tonight, I'll come back. I'll find you. I'll take everything and everyone you love." Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. One shot. End to 15 years of nightmares. Final resolution to the monster who'd haunted her life. Killed innocent women, murdered her husband. The forest fell silent, except distant firefight sounds. Just Elena and the killer who destroyed her life, alone among ancient trees. "Do it," Dominic taunted. "Become like me." Elena drew a deep breath, then slowly lowered the rifle. "No, I'm nothing like you." Dominic lunged suddenly, blade appearing in his hand, slashing toward her throat. Elena sidestepped with FBI training grace, catching his wrist and using his momentum to slam him face first into the tree trunk. The knife fell as she twisted his arm behind him, driving him to his knees. "It's over, Dominic," she said firmly, pressing rifle barrel against his skull base. "You've lost." Approaching footsteps announced Anderson's arrival with deputies. "We've got him." As deputies led Dominic away, Anderson turned to Eleanor. "Ryder's wounded, but stable. Paramedics on the way. We've captured 9 of Drake's men. No sign of Drake or Nathan Westwood. They're still in the tunnels," Eleanor said with certainty. "There are other exits they might reach if they survive collapse. My men are securing perimeter. If they surface, we'll find them." Distant sirens announced county emergency services. Red and blue lights strobed through trees as police and ambulances converged. Ryder was sitting upright when Elena reached him, grimacing as Ray applied pressure to shoulder wound. "Just a scratch," the big man insisted, though blood-soaked vest suggested otherwise. "You saved my life." Ryder shook his head. "Just returning favor to Victor. He saved mine twice in Desert Storm." He managed pained smile. Never mentioned his daughter would be former FBI taking on a psychopath. As paramedics worked on Ryder and other wounded, Elena stood at the massive sinkhole edge that had swallowed the tunnel system. Somewhere below lay Blackwood's fortune, buried again beneath tons of earth. Somewhere down there, perhaps, lay Vincent Drake and Nathan Westwood, claimed by the treasure they'd killed to possess. Night air filled with Harley rumbles as Iron Warriors established protective perimeter. Anderson coordinated with arriving county units, and Dominic Westwood sat handcuffed in a patrol car, finally captured after 15 years. Elena felt strange unreality. The nightmare defining her existence for 15 years was ending. The man who'd murdered her husband, forced her to live as someone else, killed countless victims, would finally face justice. But as she watched the patrol car carrying Dominic disappear, she couldn't shake the feeling something remained unfinished. The collapse had been too convenient. Drake too experienced to be trapped so easily. Nathan too calculating to die without contingency plans. Dawn broke over Meadowbrook Farm, painting devastation in harsh clarity. The massive sinkhole created an unnatural wound in earth. Yellow police tape fluttered. County and state vehicles dotted the driveway. Elena stood on her porch, coffee warming her hands. Night's events had transformed her land into a crime scene, her life into public record. By noon, news vans would arrive. By evening, her real identity would be national knowledge. She should have felt relief. Dominic was in custody, being treated under armed guard. The nightmare was ostensibly over, yet something nagged at her, instinct honed through FBI work and survival. Anderson approached, face haggard. State police finished processing the sinkhole. No sign of Nathan or Drake, bringing ground-penetrating radar later. They're not down there, Elena said with quiet certainty. You think they escaped? Vincent Drake's too professional to be trapped easily, and Nathan's too calculating to go into those tunnels without knowing every exit. Her phone rang. Marcus, I need to take this. Jessica, I just got word Dominic's in custody. Is it really over? Not entirely. Nathan and Drake are unaccounted for. The Bureau's sending a team to transport Dominic to federal holding. I've pushed every button to make sure he doesn't slip away. Marcus paused. But there's something else. We've been analyzing Highland financial transactions. Evidence Nathan's been moving large sums to offshore accounts over the past week, and he's made 3 calls to a number associated with the private airfield outside Omaha. He's planning to run. Flight plan filed for Cayman Islands, departing this morning. Elena checked her watch. Less than 2 hours. Can you get FBI to the airfield? Already working on it, but jurisdiction issues are slowing things. Need a federal judge to sign off. I'm closer. I can be there in an hour. After hanging up, Eleanor briefed Anderson, who offered to accompany with deputies. No sirens, no uniforms, Eleanor insisted. If they see police, they'll accelerate timeline or find another route. 20 minutes later, Eleanor's truck headed toward Omaha, Anderson riding shotgun with tactical vest beneath civilian jacket. 2 unmarked vehicles followed, carrying plainclothes deputies. The private airfield lay 30 miles outside Omaha, hangars and single runway serving wealthy clients. As they approached, Anderson received a call. Jets on tarmac, Gulfstream G550, 2 SUVs, men with visible weapons standing guard. Elena slowed, turning onto a service road circling behind the airfield's main buildings. They parked behind an abandoned agricultural building offering clear view. Through binoculars, Elena counted 6 armed men surrounding the Gulfstream, all with military bearing. Heavily armed for business trip, Anderson commented. Elena studied layout, cameras, access points, cover. A fuel truck moved slowly along perimeter. That driver's been making the same circuit for 15 minutes, Anderson pointed out. Elena focused binoculars on the truck's cab. Military posture, watchful scanning. One of Drake's men. A black Mercedes emerged from a hangar, proceeding toward the jet. Through binoculars, Elena clearly identified Nathan in the back seat. Beside him sat Vincent Drake, face bruised but bearing unchanged. There they are. We should call back up now. Before Elena could respond, her satellite phone vibrated. Unknown number. Jessica Cole. The voice was male, cultured, with slight age tremor. Or Eleanor Hartley, if you prefer. Frank Hartley's daughter, correct? Who is this? Someone who's been watching you for a very long time. Someone who admires your persistence. A pause. Someone who can help you catch Nathan Westwood and Vincent Drake. Elena's mind raced. Identify yourself. My name wouldn't mean anything, but I can tell you I'm at Silver Pines Care Facility in Bridgewater. I believe you know it. Your father's a resident. Ice formed in Elena's veins. If you harm my father, no harm will come to Victor if you listen carefully. Nathan and Drake are about to depart with 60 million in gold and currency recovered from Blackwood tunnels. They'll escape justice just as Dominic did 15 years ago, unless you act now. I'm listening. There's an emergency access road on the airfield's east side, unmonitored by cameras. Will allow you to approach within 50 yards without detection. You have approximately 12 minutes before they complete pre-flight checks. Why are you helping me? Let's just say I have vested interest in seeing the Westwood family pay for crimes spanning generations. The voice softened. Ask your father about Edward Blackwood next time you play chess. The line went dead. Eleanor stared at the phone. Edward Curtis from the care facility. I think he's Edward Blackwood, Arthur Blackwood's grandson, the bootlegger's grandson still alive, and with his own vendetta against the Westwoods. She scanned the airfield. He mentioned an access road on the east side. Anderson checked his map. It's there. Maintenance access. Could be trap, or our only chance. They drove quickly to the access road, finding it secured by chain-link gate with old padlock. Anderson made short work with bolt cutters. They proceeded slowly, lights off, using terrain for concealment. From their new position, they could see the Gulf Stream clearly. The pilot had started engines, high-pitched whine carrying across tarmac. Nathan stood at boarding stairs, deep in conversation with Drake. 4 guards maintained protective formation, 2 more secured perimeter. We're outgunned, Anderson observed. We don't need to outgun them, just stop that plane. Anderson spoke quietly into his radio. Moments later, vehicle collision sounds echoed from the main gate, followed by angry shouting. 2 perimeter guards moved toward disturbance, while Drake dispatched another. Now we're only outnumbered 2-1, Eleanor said with grim humor. The distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle shattered morning air. 1 perimeter guard dropped instantly. A second shot, another guard fell. What the hell? Anderson pressed lower. A third shot struck one of the protective detail near the Westwoods. Panic erupted. Remaining guards returned fire blindly, having no clear target. Nathan abandoned dignity, running for aircraft steps. Drake followed, shoving his employer ahead while drawing his weapon. Remaining guard provided covering fire as they ascended. They're getting away, Anderson growled. Wait, Elena commanded, watching as the jet's door began closing. The 4th shot came as the door sealed, sound almost lost beneath engine roar. But the effect was immediate. The Gulf Stream, which had begun taxiing, suddenly veered sharply left, nose dipping as if the pilot slumped forward. The aircraft careened off taxiway, one wing striking a fuel truck with sickening metal crunch. Jet fuel sprayed from ruptured lines, igniting instantly. Fire engulfed the right side as it ground to halt, black smoke billowing skyward. Eleanor was already moving, running toward burning aircraft with weapon drawn. Heat intensified. The emergency exit over wing burst open and a figure tumbled out, clothes smoldering. Vincent Drake rolled to extinguish flames, then rose unsteadily, weapon in hand. His eyes locked with Elena's across 30 feet of scorched tarmac. Cole, he spat, raising his pistol. Elena fired first. 3 rapid shots catching Drake in chest and throat. He collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. The aircraft's main door opened, revealing Nathan silhouetted against flames spreading inside. His suit was torn, face bloodied. In one hand, he clutched a metal briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. "Help me," he shouted, coughing as smoke billowed. "Throw down weapons." Nathan complied, tossing a handgun onto tarmac. "The pilot's dead." Shot through windshield, co-pilot's badly injured. "Come down slowly." He descended stairs with difficulty, heavy briefcase throwing off balance. "Who's shooting at us?" "I was about to ask you the same." Fire trucks and police approached, sirens wailing. Anderson arrived, covering Nathan while Eleanor checked the co-pilot, finding him unconscious but alive. Together, they extracted the injured man as fire spread throughout the cabin. Nathan watched with undisguised anguish. 60 million? 15 years of searching. "The gold's in the plane," Anderson asked. "Most of it. This is just documentation, account numbers." Nathan lifted briefcase slightly. 3 generations hunted for Blackwood's fortune. "And now you'll all pay for lives that obsession cost," Elena said coldly. Fire trucks arrived. Wilson handed Nathan to responding officers with clear security instructions. The wounded co-pilot transferred to paramedics. Through it all, Elena scanned surrounding area for any sign of the sniper. No brass casings, no footprints, no witnesses. "Professional work," she told Anderson. "Military grade." Her satellite phone vibrated. Same unknown number. "Satisfied?" the voice asked. "Who are you?" "A ghost from the past. Someone who's been waiting a very long time for justice." The voice grew softer. "The Westwood family stole more than gold all those years ago. They stole lives, futures, built their empire on blood." Understanding dawned. "You're Edward Blackwood. In the flesh, or what remains." Arthur Blackwood was more than a bootlegger. He was a businessman. Joseph Westwood was his partner until greed consumed him. He murdered my grandfather, tried to steal the fortune, spent decades searching for what was hidden beneath your farm. You've been watching all this time, waiting. Joseph died before I could exact justice. His son died of natural causes 3 years ago, but his grandsons continued the tradition. Dominic with killings, Nathan with ruthless business. You could have gone to authorities. The Westwoods owned authorities in 3 states. Money buys influence, silence. No, this required patience, a lifetime of patience. The phone call about my father. A deception, necessary to ensure your cooperation. Victor's quite safe. I've had illuminating conversations with him over recent months. Remarkable man, your adopted father. You've been talking to my father. We play chess Tuesdays and Thursdays. Excellent tactical mind. He speaks highly of you, though of course he calls you Elena. A pause. You should know I never intended for innocents to die. The fire was regrettable but necessary to ensure gold remained buried along with evidence. Why contact me at all? The old voice sighed. Perhaps an old man's vanity. Or because someone should know justice was finally served. A longer pause. Will you be coming for me now? Elena considered. This man had orchestrated the Westwoods' final downfall, helped ensure Dominic and Nathan would face justice, yet he'd also caused deaths today. I don't even know your real name. Edward Blackwood. Though residents here know me as Edward Curtis, a soft chuckle. Aliases seem to run in both our professions, don't they? I need to think about what happens next. I understand. I'll be here when you decide. The line went dead. 3 weeks later, Meadowbrook Farm looked almost normal. Sinkhole filled, barn reconstruction begun, crime scene tape gone. Elena sat on her porch swing watching sunset paint the sky. Motorcycle engines announced visitors. Ryder led 5 Harleys up the driveway, riders parking before approaching. Evening, Elena. Ryder's arm was free of sling now, though movement still favored uninjured side. Evening, gentlemen. Elena gestured to the cooler. "Beer's cold if you're interested." Iron warriors settled around the porch as twilight deepened. They'd become regular visitors, checking on her, helping with repairs, becoming the extended family she'd never expected. "Heard from Anderson today," Ryder mentioned casually. Elena nodded, understanding the unspoken question. Once Dominic and Nathan went to trial, the whole story would come out. "You planning to stay?" Elena looked out over her land, fields she'd worked, home she'd built with Daniel, community that had rallied to her defense. "I'm staying. I'm done running. Elena Hartley is who I am now, regardless of who I was before." Ryder smiled. "Good. Iron Warriors would hate to lose our honorary member." As darkness fell, Ryder handed Eleanor a leather vest with Iron Warriors insignia. "Honorary membership comes with 99 brothers who'll come running whenever you call." Elena accepted the vest with genuine emotion. "Thank you for everything." After motorcycles departed, Elena remained on the porch, savoring peace she'd fought to preserve. Tomorrow, she'd drive to Bridgewater to play chess with Victor and Edward Blackwood, 3 people bound by secrets and justice served outside normal channels. Next week, she'd meet contractors about converting part of her property into a training facility for women learning self-defense, something positive from violence's ashes. But tonight, she simply existed in the moment, feeling truly free for the first time in 15 years. Jessica Cole would always be part of her, the FBI agent who'd tracked a killer and survived. But Elena Hartley was who she'd become, farmer, daughter, survivor, and now protector of a rural community that had embraced her despite secrets. As a distant coyote howled at the rising moon, Elena remembered something Victor had told her years ago when she first entered witness protection. "It's not about who you were, Jessica. It's about who you choose to become." Elena Hartley hung the Iron Warrior's vest on a porch hook and went inside, locking her door not from fear, but from simple prudence of a woman who'd learned the true value of peace and would remain forever vigilant to protect it.